The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Just Speaker, if there's any cricket analogy that does make sense, is that Winston is probably the 12th man for Labor, and that means he's good at getting the drinks. Yeah? It'd be good as the drinks boy, and that's about it. And you've got to say Labor have got to be pretty antsy and a bit nervous at the moment if Winston Peters is seen as their saviour. Winston Peters is the man that's, strode into town on the bus, throw their own candidate underneath and hope for the best. But if there's one person, perhaps, that was a little bit worried about that particular debate from that particular member, she's left now. Tracy Martin certainly felt concerned because that was a succession speech if ever I heard one. Hey? That was a succession speech if ever I heard one, of someone that sees themselves ready to step up and take the reins of the great bus that is New Zealand First. I was actually thinking about Brendan McCallum and what a great job he did yesterday. I tell you what, there's some weird things that happen in life, and one was me sitting alone watching cricket and totally engrossed and never believing that I would be that interested in that sport, quite frankly, to be as absolutely engrossed as I am. But it does bring out the cricket analogy as well. Just to be quite clear, Winston Peters was trying to run for Northland before Brendan McCallum was even born. Yeah? And then he probably hasn't visited in his aspect as an MP since Brendan actually was born, because he only goes back for his holidays and not actually to care about the particular area and what it needs to be done. But we'll see what happens there, and times will be interesting. I will say, though, that the people of Northland at first were a little bit, I've got to say, Winston was there in the bus and they kind of stopped and took stock for a moment and weren't quite expecting him, but they've really gotten a bit sick of being talked down. So at first they did sort of go, and they're a bit sick of them, and actually notice the members' debate was all about how awful Northland is, how awful it's going, how terrible things are, how bad it is. It's so bad up in Northland. I actually think it's one of the most incredible regions in this country, has more going for it than most of them do, and is pretty damned incredible. And so does our candidate Mark Osborne, and that's what National stands for. So the little rhetoric of talking them down and how bad things are, might have initially got a bit of TV coverage, but the people of Northland, they know how great the place is that they live in. They know how great they are, and they don't believe in the negativity from New Zealand First that, quite frankly, they're hearing all the time. So Labor really are in a bit of disarray. So here they are sort of struggling along, and then the person they've got to look at as their great shining light is Winston Peters. So throw their own candidate under the Winston Peters bus, who actually is quite an awesome woman from some accounts up north, I've got to say. Quite a bit of respect for her there, and they think that she's actually a strong candidate that could do a really good job. Those, of course, that don't support our wonderful Mark Osborne and our candidate. But under the bus she goes, not even overtly, covertly, so they haven't got the actual chutzpah to stand up and actually say, this is what we believe, but we'll secretly all hope that Winston is our great saviour up there, because things are not going so well for Labor themselves. So let's take the housing policy. Obviously the member's getting ready for his great debate. He's ready to get up there and give it stick. I don't know where they stand on housing. So it's state housing that they largely ignored. Build a couple more houses and jobs done. Doesn't matter if they're in the wrong place, the wrong people, not actually addressing the needs of tenants. That's pretty much just tick that box and we've done our housing policy and everything's all right. The member blatantly gets up in speeches and says that he supports growing community housing providers. He says private sector investment is part of that, local government and central government. Blatantly says it all of the time. Makes up, quite frankly, real stories and untruths about this government trying to flog heaps off to private developers, which I right now put on the record as saying is untrue. It is point blankly untrue. What we stand for is tenants. What we stand for and will make a difference on is actually people that have been left behind, largely ignored for generations, and now deserve to have the right kind of services wrapped around them by the right kind of community providers. That takes leadership. It means standing up for something and backing those providers with the right level of funding, the right level of support around them, and that's what we stand for and that's what we believe in.
Phil Twyford.
Last few weeks have been very